Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another Season 8 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today I'll be covering AD carry Kai'Sa, the daughter of the Void.
I came for the hunt, but I'll stay for the fruit.
Alright, so let's kick off this guide by first looking at Kai'Sa's pros. So Kai'Sa is a champion with some very high scaling. As the game progresses more and more, she is one of those champions that will get a ton of damage and be able to hard carry games. She also has some pretty decent mobility because of her ultimate and her E ability, so she will be able to make it to those squishy targets. She's got some very high snowball potential and can completely take control of games, and she is also a pretty strong duelist. Then finally, she's also got a pretty good engage and escape if she uses her ultimate or her E ability. Now although Kai'Sa does have a bunch of pros, she of course comes with some cons as well. The first one would be the fact that her ultimate does absolutely no damage. That means she won't receive a really big power spike at level 6 like some champions, so you have to be pretty careful against some champions as soon as you are level 6. You also have absolutely no crowd control and a very expensive core build as well. That's going to mean farming is extremely important on Kai'Sa because you need to be getting those core items to be able to shred the enemy team. She's then also going to require some pretty solid positioning as well because you don't actually have anything like an arcane shift. Your mobility is pretty decent, but it's not the best out there. Then finally, Kai'Sa is a champion that is pretty mediocre when behind. A lot of the times you'll want to try to engage into the enemy team with your ultimate when they are low and finish them off with your Q ability. However, if you are behind, you're not going to do very much damage and you may end up just dying. For your runes, you want to go for precision and sorcery, grabbing either fleet footwork or press the attack as your keystone. I'm a much bigger fan of fleet footwork because this will give you some extra mobility and healing, but press the attack will give you a little bit more burst damage and is a great option as well. Then for the rest of precision, I go for Triumph, so my takedowns give me missing health and additional gold, and then Alacrity so I get permanent attack speed on takedowns. Then finish up that side by getting Coup de Grace so you do extra damage to low health enemies. In the sorcery side, I like to go for the combination of Celerity and Gathering Storm. This will give you 3% extra movement speed and some extra attack damage based on your movement speed as well, and Gathering Storm gives you increasing amounts of AD as the game does progress. This damage will of course help you carry in the later stages of the game. For your first summoner spell, you of course want to pick up Flash. Kai'Sa is a pretty damn squishy AD carry, so you can use Flash throughout the game if you do get caught in a bad position to save your life over and over again. Of course, it's going to be great in teamfights just to dodge skill shots, and you can also use this to flash forward to finish off a low health enemy. Now as for your second summoner spell, you'll definitely want to pick up Heal. It is by far the best option in that bottom lane because you can use it to save both yourself and your teammates. You do always have the option of activating it for the movement speed as well if you do have to chase a low health enemy. Kai'Sa's passive is Second Skin, which allows you to do some bonus damage on hit and also allows you to upgrade your abilities. This bonus damage on hit is magic damage and it does scale with your ability power and your plasma stack, so it does have the potential of doing a lot of damage. After you get 4 plasma stacks on the enemy champion, the 5th attack on them will rupture this and do a bunch of damage based on the target's missing health and your ability power. That means you want to attack the enemy champion as much as you can with your abilities and your auto attacks to get those plasmas on the target quickly so you can proc a bunch of extra damage, which can sometimes execute your target. Now as I said, this passive also allows you to upgrade your abilities. This is based on the stats from your items and your stat growth, so you need to be getting your core items as quickly as possible so you can upgrade your abilities and become even stronger. Your Q ability is a Cathian Rain, which is one of your main sources of damage outside of course of your auto attacks. When you activate the ability, you'll release a swarm of 6 missiles that distributes evenly amongst all enemies. It's also great at last hitting minions because minions below 35% health will take double damage. This ability then gets a lot stronger when you upgrade it because the bonus AD ratio and bonus AP ratio go through the roof. It also releases 12 missiles instead of 6 missiles, so will do a lot more damage. So of course this is a great ability for single target damage because it will do a big chunk of damage onto that target, and it's also great for last hitting minions. You'll therefore want to use it to harass the enemy champion as much as you can throughout the lane phase and last hit minions. Your W ability is Void Seeker, which has a really long range, does some nice damage, and reveals the target for 4 seconds. This does have a 3000 range and a 150% AD ratio and 45% AP ratio, which gives you some really nice damage from a very long range. It will also apply 2 stacks of plasma, so it's great to get off that passive damage really quickly. Since this ability does apply plasma, it's great when comboed with your ultimate to engage from a very long distance. You cannot actually use your ultimate unless there is a champion that is affected by plasma, so this is a great way to do it. To upgrade this ability, you do have to have 100 ability power, and it does apply 3 stacks of plasma instead, and 50% of the cooldown against enemy champions is reduced. Therefore, it will be some pretty decent poke damage, and it will apply 3 stacks of plasma instead, making your passive damage incredibly easy to pull off. Your E ability is Supercharge, which gives you some increased mobility and attack speed. Your movement speed scales with your attack speed, but the minimum bonus movement speed you will receive is between 55 and 75%, and the bonus attack speed for 5 seconds afterwards will be between 40 and 80%. Your basic attacks will also reduce Supercharge's cooldown by 0.5 seconds, so you can use it rather often as long as you're able to auto-attack. To upgrade this ability, you do need 100% bonus attack speed, and you will be granted invisibility for 0.5 seconds whenever you use it. When you're using this properly, you will be a lot harder to keep track of because of the invisibility. It's kind of like Vayne's Tumble, except you can't use it quite as often. Either way, it's a great way to reposition yourself in duels or in team fights so the enemy champion can't lock you down and delete you. Your ultimate ability is Killer Instinct, which allows you to dash to a target and also gets you a shield. Now this shield is actually pretty damn strong because it has an AD ratio between 100 and 200% and a 75% AP ratio. This is going to give you some really nice extra durability in duels and in team fights. The better part of the ability, however, is the fact that you can dash to a target location near an enemy that was recently afflicted by your plasma. This does have a scaling target range of between 1500 and 2500, so of course, like I did mention, it's great to combo with your W ability because if you land it from a long distance, you can jump in from a pretty good range. Of course, if you are in the middle of a team fight, you can always use this to reposition onto squishier targets or just to be granted that shield. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. Then, since it is one of your main sources of damage, you want to focus on maxing your Q ability as quickly as possible. It's great for poking the enemy champions throughout the lane phase, and also great for last hitting. You then want to focus on maxing your E ability second because it does have scaling movement speed and attack speed, so of course it's a really strong ability on an AD carry. That of course means you want to save your W ability for last, but you do want to get a point in it early on at level 2 so you can poke the enemy champions and be incredibly annoying and combo with your ultimate when you are level 6. Now let's look at some of your support synergies, and first up is Janna. Janna works great with Kai'Sa because Kai'Sa's already great at trading with the enemy, but when you add the shield from Janna, she gets even stronger. Although Kai'Sa does have some decent mobility, Janna also provides all sorts of peeling which will keep Kai'Sa a lot safer. It is a fairly passive lane, but they will be great at trading throughout the lane phase, and Janna will be able to keep her safe in the later stages of the game. For the next hard matchup, I've got Nami. Nami's great with Kai'Sa because she does of course having healing ability, so Kai'Sa can trade aggressively and be able to be healed back up by the Nami. Of course, they also have some really good poke damage together, and if the Nami can land her bubble, they will also have a ton of kill pressure. Nami does provide some pretty decent peeling in the late game as well to keep the Kai'Sa safe. For the next support synergy, I've got Zilean. Zilean will have an absolute ton of kill pressure with the Kai'Sa as long as he can land his bomb combo. It'll do an absolute ton of damage and also stun the enemy, which will give Kai'Sa a ton of time to follow up. Of course, Zilean also has his speed up / slow ability as well, which will make kiting for Kai'Sa a lot easier by either giving her the speed boost or of course slowing an enemy. And for the last support synergy, I've got Saira. Now this synergy here is the definition of a kill lane because if she lands her root on the enemy with a bunch of plants attacking, it will do a ton of damage when combined with a Kai'Sa. She's also a very strong team fighter because of her ultimate, and if she does get it onto an entire enemy team, Kai'Sa will be able to use her own ultimate to jump in there and start deleting targets. During the lane phase, you'll have to focus on farming as much as you can. You have a really expensive core build and you need to get it as quickly as possible in order to delete targets. You'll then want to focus on poking the enemy as much as you can with your Q and your W. Your Q is a really strong ability because you can also last hit with it at the same time, but you want to try to land your W from range to poke the enemy. When you're going for an all-in, you want to activate your E ability for all the attack speed you get for 5 seconds. Then of course try to proc your passive as much as you can on the enemy as well because it will do a ton of damage whenever you get 5 plasma on the enemy. Then finally, just like every other champion in League of Legends, make sure you try to ward your lane as much as possible to watch for ganks coming from the jungler or roams coming from the mid laner. In teamfights, you'll first want to pump out as much damage as you can with your Q, W, and auto attacks. Your Q ability will do a ton of damage, especially when evolved, and when you combine it with those auto attacks, you will be pumping out a ton of damage on Kai'Sa with the core build. When you're going into the team fight, you also want to make sure you activate your E ability beforehand so you have all of that attack speed for 5 seconds so you can pump out even more damage. You then have the option of using your ultimate to engage or for the defensive shield. Usually I will use it to jump into a team fight when there is a bunch of low targets, but if you are getting targeted, you can always use this to jump away from the target and get a shield to be a little bit more durable. Now let's look at some of your hard matchups, and first up is Jinx. Jinx is a champion that can give you a struggle because during the lane phase she can poke you with rockets, which will be pretty irritating. In a straight up duel she can usually just go into her minigun form and straight up just beat you. In teamfights however, if she does dip low, you can always use your ultimate to get right on top of her and then easily delete her with your Q and some autos. Don't mess with her too much in the early game, try to delete her in the later game. And for the other hard matchup here, we've got Misfortune. Misfortune's a champion that's really strong in the early and the mid game, and if she takes advantage of this, you're going to have a very hard time reaching the late game. You do, however, outscale the absolute crap out of a Misfortune, so as long as you can make it to the late game, it should be rather easy to delete her. Of course, make sure you're not standing behind low health enemies because a bounce double up will take pretty much half of your health. Now let's finish this off with the item build, which starts with a Doran's Shield, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem, or a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem. I'm definitely a way bigger fan of going for the Doran's Shield on Kai'Sa. I think it's a way stronger starting item, but against a very easy lane matchup, you could always get away with that Doran's Blade. For your core items, you have the Death's Dance, Ginsu's Rage Blade, and your choice of boots. This is going to give you a really nice chunk of attack damage, attack speed, and of course you'll get that really nice stacking damage from the Ginsu's as well. This will also put you over 100 attack damage right off the bat as well, which of course will allow you to upgrade your Q ability to make it do even more damage. Now as for your boot options, usually I would recommend either going for Berserker Greaves to increase your attack speed, or you could go for Ninja Tabbies if you do need some armor against high AD teams or against really hard matchups like Draven. For your item pool, you first have the Runan's Hurricane. This is a really strong item on Kai'Sa because of course it will spread your auto attacks and your Q ability, making you do a ton of AoE damage. It of course has a bunch of attack speed and critical strike chance as well on the item, so it will pump up your damage quite a bit. Then next you have the Gnasher's Tooth. This is a really nice item on Kai'Sa because she does have some nice added damage on her passive already, and this will give you even more on-hit damage. This item also has 50% attack speed and 80 ability power on it as well, which will allow you to upgrade your other abilities, which will make Kai'Sa an incredibly strong champion at this point in time. If you're then looking to get some cooldown reduction and some critical strike chance, you could always go for an Essence Reaver. It does also give you some nice mana return whenever you critically strike. It's not my favorite item, but I do see it from time to time. Then next you have the Infinity Edge. If you're looking to go for a high critical strike chance build, then you may want the Infinity Edge for that increased critical strike damage. So one of those other items that will give you some critical strike chance and attack speed would be the Phantom Dancer. It is a pretty strong item on Kai'Sa, but unless you're going for a crit build, I wouldn't recommend getting it. If you then needed to get a QSS to break through crowd controls, then you may want to get a Mercurial Scimitar. It does have some really nice attack damage and lifesteal on it as well, so it is an all-around great item on an AD carry if there is a lot of CCs on the enemy team. Next, if you do need some armor penetration, go for either an LDR or a Mortal Reminder. Both are really strong options. I would recommend getting the LDR, but if you do need grievous wounds, then Mortal Reminder would be the superior option. Then finally last, you have the Guardian Angel to come back to life in the later stages of the game with the shield that it does provide. For the example full build, I take that core build with the Gnasher's Tooth, Runan's Hurricane, and a Guardian Angel. You will have a really nice chunk of attack speed with some great on-hit damage, some lifesteal from the Death's Dance, and a really strong defensive shield from the Guardian Angel. Kai'Sa will pump out an absolutely insane amount of damage with this build, and you will be able to hard carry games. And that's all I've got for Kai'Sa. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and visit my video description below. I have a link to all my social medias, and I do also have a Discord server, so that's one you should definitely check out. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching. I really do appreciate it, so take it easy, have a good day, and peace.